I hope we're all doing extremely well this Wednesday, the 8th of October. Hope we're all doing extremely well today. Now, I didn't do a show last night purely because I was so tired. There wasn't a lot happening out there. So, and I didn't sort of want to regurgitate a lot of the stuff that was out there. So feel free to get into the chat. We're going to go through pretty much what's out there today. Obviously, this story sort of broke last night, and we can talk about that, and I'll give you my opinion on that as well. Let me know in the chat where you're from, what your opinions are on this international break. Is always quite quiet, and you always get these sort of transfer stories. I do believe that there is a lot of stuff in there that is true. I think the Fernandes stuff is pretty obvious, but we can get into that and who's claiming that and whatever else as an exclusive. Zirkzee as well, and let me know in the chat really about what you think about other players who could go. Now, obviously, Man Utd is in there as well. Zirkzee, some of the other players that can go. Let me know whether you think these players should go in the summer, in the winter window to raise some funds. Who would you sign in the January window? Let me know about that as well. Just let me know what's been going on. I've not done a show since this time yesterday. Hopefully I shouldn't be doing evening show again tonight. It'll be another sort of late show, and those shows are always sort of those are the best shows. If you're new to the channel, I am not the dictator of the chat. What you will get here is I will always try to read out your chats. There are super chats, all that sort of stuff on the channel. Doesn't mean that that's what the expectation is. I will try to read out all of your chats, irrespective of what you do, because that is what we do here. I really value your opinion. I think it's really important to get your opinions across. Obviously, all I'm going to say is please respect the chat. Please respect me. Please respect the mods. Other than that, we don't mind banter. We get many different fans on here. All are respectful. Banter-wise, absolutely encourage the banter to a certain degree. So if you are new, get in your questions, say hi. I will say hi as well, and I do generally tend to read your messages. The caveat to that is obviously if you say something, I will read out. If not, then you'll get blocked if it's not right, and it's something that I don't like to do. So where are we today? So last night, I'll get straight into it. Last night, I'll tell you where this come from. Last night as a exclusive piece of news from Indicator news. Now, whether you sort of like them or not. So one of the things that sort of made them a little bit bigger was David Ornstein a couple of weeks ago. Give them a shout out, and I think that's absolutely gone to Indicator's head as it was, and now they always have these exclusive stories. Now, what I do try to do on here is I do try to be as logical as possible, and I do try to play both sides of the story. So number one, Indicator News, they're a sort of middling to biggish platform on X. Indicator do get some stories. Now, what Indicator News typically, historically, what they do is they're very good at playing both sides. So what they'll do, unlike this story, which they've gone in, and there's no caveat to this. So what they'll do, give you an example of the Belieber story that Indicator News presided over, and the Amorim stuff was basically Belieber will definitely come this year, or he might come next year. Amorim out as well. They had a secret. They had a exclusive on a secret plan that Ineos have called Project Winter. Tulip Place says hi JB. Hi Tulip. Hope we're extremely well today. And Indicator News apparently have all these exclusives. Now, number one, so Indicator News on X, and this is what I'm explaining here, is that we need to take that with a pinch of salt. And I'll give you sort of my opinion on that, so feel free to get your opinions. Number one, my overarching opinion on this is well, duh. I mean, that was always going to happen. I mean, this is something that we've been talking about on here. So I saw it last night. I was going to go live with it last night, but I saw it, and it's one of those things whereby if it was out of the blue, then I would have gone live with it. But I just thought I'd bring it into the show. I didn't particularly want to do a late show last night, because I was absolutely knackered, because I do work as well. So I tried to fit this in around work and family life as well. So Indicator News, who are they? For those of you who don't know who they are, they're a middling kind of ex-football site who have all these exclusive, which is a load of nonsense. They've kind of been pushed a little bit more because David Ornstein mentioned them a little bit in a, has United accepted the deal for Bruno? I mean, the 100 mil deal. Bello, if I was Ineos United, I'd be accepting a deal all day long. I think this deal has been out. So this is what I'm saying about this Indicator News on Bruno Fernandes. This has already been done. This is not an exclusive. Good afternoon. The one thing they got, they got one thing right, and now they think they're Fabrizio. Exactly that. And this is why I wanted to come on here, because this is what we do in here. We logically play the both sides. We do try to explain where things come from as well. So Indicator News, as we say, they got one thing right. David Ornstein mentioned them. Now, do I think that this is right? Yes, I do. Do I think that they've got the exclusive? No. They're absolutely just playing this window. Do I think they're going to be wrong on it? Now, the one thing I will say that Indicator on this occasion, there's no caveat on this. They've basically just gone full ball on Fernandes is going to leave. And Fernandes, we've accepted a £100 million bid from the Saudi League. Right? Do I believe it? Yes. Was this on the cards last summer? Yes. Do I think we've already done a deal? Yes, I do. Do I think this deal was done last year? Yes, I do. Do I think it'll go in the January window? No, I don't. So this is not an exclusive deal. So just to say the one thing that this is not an exclusive deal, this is already out there. This is something that we've spoken about on here many times. So I want to kind of shift it now to why I think Fernandes should go. You give me your opinions on this. I've seen other bigger channels start talking about this for all of the reasons that we're talking about this. We pretty much cover Bruno Fernandes pretty much after every game. I give my opinions on it as well. Now, should Fernandes go? That is the question. Now, let me know your views and opinions in the chat, or whether you think that Bruno Fernandes should be sold. There is no doubt that Bruno Fernandes, is he our best player? You could argue, some could argue that yes, he is. Do I think, in terms of, let's take away the petulance, let's take away, the fact that he's playing in the wrong position. Now, the Fernandes situation, Bruno Fernandes in that number 10 role, is he our best player? Probably. Okay, probably is. The only thing I'm going to say about that is many people, and again, this applies to Manu, this applies to Fernandes, this applies to pretty much any player in our team at this point in time, is that as much as I think Manu will be a good player, as much as I think Fernandes, as much as I want Fernandes gone, and I'm not going to be dissuaded on this, I want him gone. I don't want him in this team. I would sell Fernandes. Is that there is nobody in this team that I would keep. We have to. Now, when I see people losing their SHRT over, Bruno Fernandes leaving, oh my God, he's been our best player. In certain respects, this applies to Manu as well. We have had bigger players leave this team. The fact that Bruno Fernandes, to me, is a pivotal player in this team, and everyone sees him as the pivotal player, is really scary. Because over the years, we've had bigger and better people leave this club, bigger and better people retire. And we've had players sold, and they've all been better than the majority of these players. So I've got absolutely no problem with Fernandes leaving. There is no manager or player bigger than this club. You could argue Ferguson, was he bigger than the club? He built the club. I think he was part of the club. Was he bigger than the club? No, of course not. Because if he was, he was fundamental to this club. Now, there is no managers leave, the players leave. The fact that Fernandes is seen as an integral, pivotal part of this team scares me. Because we need to purge. We need to purge a lot of these players. Now, I'm going to focus on Fernandes because he's on the thumbnail and he's the one under the fact that he's probably going to leave. I do believe this story. Now, do I believe that Indicator should have the credit for this? No. We've spoken about this. I think it is a very logical thing to think that we've asked Fernandes to stay another season, which I think was a mistake. I think we spoke about it on here many, many times. I believe that the Fernandes staying here has absolutely thrown off the season and is a contributing factor, I think, as to why we've fallen off. Coldrock says the gaslighting is insane. How does every other team cope without Bruno? And I agree with that. I agree with that. Well, with Zirkzee land. Jamie Vargas, welcome to the chat, my friend. I do believe that. I think we are being sold a Fernandes. Look, Fernandes for me is a stat padder. There is no look. When Fernandes, it's been the Fernandes show for the last 4 or 5 years. Fernandes hasn't played well for 2 years. Petulant. He's not a captain. The fact that he's the captain of this team absolutely devastates me. He's not a captain of this team. He's not a leader. I don't believe he's a leader of men. He shouts, he moans. Just because you shout and you moan and you point things, a leader wouldn't come out necessarily and call out his teammates and then that teammate doesn't play. What does that show you? A captain should not have that impact. The captain is there as a leader of a team and to set an example. And Fernandes does not represent that to me. We are being fed by this club that Fernandes is a pivotal part of this play because he's not been good this season. He's not been good this season at all. And I absolutely, I'm adamant on this that he absolutely should be sold. ICBAA, lovely Mac accent there. Look, my friend, as I'll say to all people, and I know you may, and I know it's a banter piece, absolutely no issue at all. But what I'll always say to that is when people make comments like that, I'm sorry, but you do expose yourself, because if United only had fans there, then we won't be as big as we are. So I'd probably say the accents of people who support United, 90% are not Mancunian. So I don't know where you're trying to go with that. Is that I don't know. So I would say does that mean that my opinion is any less important? I don't know what the banter piece is there. I've been supporting this club for 38 years. I've pretty much been seen and done it there. I probably know more about this club than I've quite a few Mancunians. So that is that. But I take the point. But my comment back at you, my friend, is I'm gonna probably say 90% of United fans' accents are not Mancunian, and they probably put more money as a collective into the club than people with a Mancunian accent. So, look, if you want to go back to that, and all you want to do is have players from that area support that team, and guess what? we will not be the bigger club as we are right now. So that, that profit of £668 million doesn't all come from Manchester. The billion fan base. Is there a billion people in Manchester? ICB88 says 90% of fans might not be from Manchester, but 100% of their fans are. Oh, interesting take. So I take it you are not a United fan, which obviously, I don't know, my friend, if you're having a bad day, you are walking that line though between banter and abuse. Look, I don't mind the banter. Absolutely cool, right? But you are walking that fine line between, and you may not care, which is absolutely fine with me, but you will get banned. I hate banning people. I don't mind the banter, but my friend, you are walking that fine line between banter and abuse. So if this is not for you and you hate me and you hate this club, mate, this channel is not for you. What made you support United in the first place? Simple, really. My granddad, my uncle, they are originally from that way. Their family are from that way as well. And watching videos, reading books, I got hooked from an early age. So pretty much that's why, really, passed down. And absolutely obsessed with the club since I was probably about 4 or 5. I had a really, really old kit and just read so much stuff and was told many, many stories. So that's what I think. That's where typically you support a club from, is from like your family members, because back in the day you didn't have social media, you didn't have ways to go online and look at players. You had to actually read stuff on players, and you had to follow reading as well. Lots of newspapers, used to read like a Match magazine and that kind of stuff. So a lot of that was basically you become entrenched in a club through stories, really. Let's have a look. Having Bruno in the middle is like having a keeper who keeps punching the ball instead of simply catching it. Code logic, very, very well summed up there, my friend. Bruno Fernandes in that position, he doesn't like the simple pass, and you're right. You want absolutely 100% right. I think it's time, and I get it. Bruno is frustrated. I absolutely get that point as well. But I think his time has come. He's going to be what? By the time we even start to challenge for anything, potentially, we are talking 3 years. By that time, he's going to be 34, 35. Financially, Ineos, they call themselves a business. Now, if they are a business, this makes business transactional sense to sell him for 100 million. If it's that price, which I think it should roughly still be, what made the ripple effect? Do you think United will reach the Champions League this season? No, I don't. I'd love them to, absolutely love United to reach the Champions League, but I'm not silly. Look, I think we're going to be so inconsistent this season. I think we'll be up and down, up and down. Fernandes is going to be part of that, and I just don't think we can. I think there are 5 teams better than us. Right now, our position would dictate that we can. Of course we can, but unless we do something, I believe, in the January window, and unless Amrin can do some sort of magic, and unless these players start playing, look, it's possible right now. Mathematically, it's possible. Do I think so? No. I'd love to be proved wrong. And if I'm wrong on this one, then it means that we've finished up in those places. So I really, really hope. Where's the 100 million from? Saudi Arabia. Look, Fernandes is going to go. I think that this season, finishing 10th, I think we'll finish around 10th or 12th. And, I think roughly that is where we'll go. And I think that will expedite Fernandes' decision to leave. So Fernandes, I think, will go. ICB ICB88. There's a shock. The typical, my family's from that way, the go-to reason of all United fans. Yeah, but I've got no reason to lie. You do know people can move away. So ICB88, look, mate, I'm going to be polite today. You're just exposing yourself. I'm trying to be polite, and you're bordering on that sort of attacking me personally. I don't need to explain myself to you. As I say again, you're exposing yourself here because the majority of United fans, there's a billion fan base who don't live in Manchester. So I don't look, mate. Look, the floor is yours. You make as many comments as you like, but you're just exposing yourself. Like, I don't need to come back to you. You're just exposing yourself. Without Bruno missing 2 pens and VAR screwing us up on the Brentford red, we'd be top 4 right now, even without playing well. And that's true. And that's true. My only thing I'm going to say about that is Brentford, would they still be? Look, my only caveat, and I agree with everything else that you said there, but Brentford, and again, if they'd have gone down to 10 men, but why should it? My only caveat to that is why can't we beat teams with 11 men? I get it completely, and I do agree that mathematically we should be top 4, but it's a true reflection of where we are, is the fact that the red card didn't happen. And if it did, would we have gone on to win or draw? Potentially. But we need to win these games. If we want to finish in top 4, we're not going to get a red card every single game. So as much as I agree, and that statement is factually correct, and I agree, we need to beat teams without cards. Much ado. Hello, my friend. I just joined. Bruno, go in. I did read Zirkzee once a move. So, and I'll go through this again. Do you think they'll go for Belieber in Jan? We'll finish 7th, not 10th. Look, that's your opinion. That is your opinion. And as I say, I'll read opinions out on here because I think it's really important for you guys to have your opinion. Look, the way that we are now, everybody's really, really inconsistent in this league right now. Nobody's playing particularly well. Is 7th possible? Yes, it is. But I think we'll finish 10th. That's just my opinion. I believe we're so inconsistent that I believe we'll finish 10th. Look, if I'm wrong, Bull, I'm happily to be wrong on this. But every single season, people rely on these players. I no longer give these players credit. I do not trust these players. I don't trust them. I don't trust them to finish 7th. So from a logical perspective, I have to say, do I think we'll finish top 4? No. Do I think we'll finish as low as 15th? Possible, but I don't think we will. Until we start playing well, it's going to be so difficult to judge. And I respect the fact that we could finish 7th. But the fact that we won a game, and what are we now? 9th, 10th? I think that's where we are. I really, really do. Just joined Bruno. So, Indicator last night, believe them or not, David Ornstein gave them a shout out once, and now they do think they're prime for Britcher. They broke an exclusive story that Bruno is going to join Saudi League for 100 million. Obviously, that's one of the most obvious things. We said that on here. Many outlets have been saying that on there. So for them to claim that, I think, is ridiculous. When Bruno goes to Saudi next year, they'll be claiming that. I'm going to call them out now. Total and utter bollocks. Total and utter nonsense. That is their exclusive. They've claimed, go back over the timelines. They've claimed so many different things. Total and utter nonsense. So do I think that he'll go? Yes. Do I think that we need him to go? Yes. I think as a club to progress, I do. Do I think we'll go for Belieber in the January window? What do I think is going to happen? I think we're going to do what we did in the summer. I think that we will create a lot of noise. I think that we'll go for loans. I think we'll go back in for Gallagher. I think that is where we go. I think we'll go back in for him on a loan. To Stegen on a loan as well. I think that is what we do. Look, historically we do not buy players in the window. So David Ornstein said this weeks and weeks back, and it was missed. Basically saying that whatever we don't do, we're happy with the business. Is that and the line is every single year. If we don't get our business done in the summer window, the January will come along and we'll do business. That we're not going to be doing business in that window. Forget it. Forget it. It's not going to happen. I'd love to be proved wrong, and this will be the first window in many, many years that will do something. It's just not going to happen. There's no value in the market. The question here is, Mark, is will Brighton sell him? Because if he keeps playing as he does, his value is going to plummet. Now, if it's 100 million for Belieber, no, no, it's not for me. Do you go if Bruno Fernandes is going to go, which I think he will? Do you spend some of that money now? I'd say yes. Anderson is linked to us. Wharton is linked to us. Belieber is linked to us. The only way we get some of these players is we need to steal a match now, and we need to go. So if Bruno is actually going to go, I believe we spend that money now. So right now, do I believe, based on logic and based on historical evidence, to say that we sign players in the window? No, I don't think we will. I think we'll go for a loan. I think we'll go for cheap. I think it's got Ineos's fingerprints all over this. I think we go cheap. I'd love you to be right. I really would. But right now, I think it's a lot of noise. And I think that Ineos's hallmark is cheap. And I think if we do go for players, it will be cheap. Chief Verb is this rude JB. Look, Chief, yeah, I believe it is. We've been saying this since last summer. Bruno is going to go in the next window. I've said that I would sell him in. I'd sell him in the January window, and I'd get rid of him then. I don't think we will. I think we will wait until next summer. Bruno will leave, and I'm all supportive of that. Interesting that Chelsea have 500 players, but the media never focuses on their unhappy players. Exactly, it's always a few players we have that aren't getting minutes that we make headlines. Exactly. Bruno out. Yes, I do agree. You're not getting 100 million for Bruno. Saudi offered 90 last season. It's not going up. Aaron, I want to correct you there. I want to correct you. Okay. Last season, the starting figure was 90 million. It is factually reported by Ornstein, by Fabrizio, that is the starting price. Saudi were willing to go up to 140 million for this player. So factually, mate, there, you sort of need to check on that. Go back through the timelines. Do I think that we'll get around 100 million for Fernandes? Yes, I do. His contract is still pretty long. We hold the upper hand here. Okay. On the basis that if they want him, they're going to have to pay him. Do I think we'll be getting around about 92, like 100 million? Yes. Do I think we can get the same money as we did 140 million last season? No. I think if we'd have got the deal done last season, we would have got the deal done for about 120 mil. And Aaron, whether you like that or not, it's been reported out there that Saudi offered us a massive amount of money, and we could have probably got 120 million for him. Yes, if that's something that you don't like, don't blame me for that. Okay. I think we'll get I do think we'll get between 90 and 100 million for him. That is not our fault. Jamie Vargas says we will finish 6th. Interesting. I'd like to know, Jamie, and you know that I respect your opinion. What's your basis on? Now, I can explain mine. I'd like to know a little bit as to why you think we'll jump from 15th to 6th on the basis we've pretty much got the same team. We're pretty much still inconsistent. We play a pivot that doesn't work. We play a back 3 that doesn't work. I'd like you to tell me why you think, and just because I'm fascinated, why you think that we'll finish 6th. I'll take a Conference League position this season. Did Chelsea no harm? The following need to go: Fernandes, Casemiro, Shaw, Dalot, Ugarte. I agree. Now, I've even seen some channels saying how Casemiro, we play better with Casemiro in the pivot. What a load of utter tripe. Have they not watched the games that we've played in where Casemiro is non-existent? Casemiro does not bring stability. Casemiro scares me, scares the life out of me. Casemiro is not our best midfielder. Casemiro does not bring stability. You know, Ugarte, for me, as much as I don't necessarily think he's a great player, he gives us more mobility. You know, Casemiro again. You know, the tackle in the last game, that could be a red. You know, if he'd have caught that any later, that's a red. These massive channels who are trying to, you know, find things to fill their time with, to say Casemiro is our best midfield option right now, they're talking utter crap. They've clearly not watched him. 100 million isn't really enough. If you hear what they're trying to pay for Kane, we should send Rashford too if Barcelona want to play silly games. Again, we can talk about that point as well. I'll get through chat. So 100 million for Fernandes is roughly about what's been quoted right now and put out the deal. I think that's in and around the truth. Yes. I think 100 million would be maximum. I think that they're willing to pay. I may be wrong. But yeah, let me go through chats and we can talk about Rashford, the Barcelona thing as well, which I think is fucking ridiculous. Given his age, 100 million is mental. Yeah, Chief, look. But the thing is you've got to think about this, right? You've got to, because he's going into the Saudi league and we know they've got money. I get it. It is crazy, but they've got to commit to that league, right? So to take a European player who's going to be off the back of a World Cup, he's still going to be a good player. Bruno will probably still play into his mid to late 30s. I agree, but that is the price. If you want to sign a top European player into that league, it's going to cost you that. Zirkzee is apparently going to leave. We can talk about that. So Gallagher would be a good cog in the system if cheap. I agree with you. I think he'd be a really, really good signing. I really do. I think he's experienced. I think playing under Simeone has definitely helped him. And I think you're spot on right. Aaron says, you won't get Elliot Anderson either. He'll go to Newcastle. Why would he go to Newcastle over us, Aaron? Again, explain it to me, my friend. Why won't we get him? You know, statements like that will come back to bite you in the arse. And again, I think statements are the same as that sort of expose you as well, because people said that Shesko wouldn't come to us. No, what you've got to understand, Aaron, which I don't think you do, is the size of our club. And yes, look, we're not doing particularly well. And Anderson will come here. So you're telling me we go back to Newcastle over us? Why? You know, yes, they're in the Champions League. I get that. But he's not going to go there. Look, he might do, but I don't think it's a simple case if he's going to choose them like over us. There's this common misconception for some reason that we're going to go down. The funny thing is we've been playing utter dross and we're still up there. Like you'd think that we'd not got any points, and you'd think that Liverpool have not lost a game. You'd think that City have not lost games. You think that Chelsea wouldn't have lost games. We're like 3 points off of fourth place, and it is a rhetoric right now fueled by the media. You know, do I agree that we're playing well? No. Do I fear? Yes. Do I fear the next 4 games could actually put us right back down? I do. But everybody in this league, this is probably one of the most competitive years. So for you to look, you can say what you want, and I'll give you your opinion. It's a valid opinion, but I disagree. Sell Believer for 45 million. Jamie, I don't think they'll go as low as that yet. I still think Brighton want around 100 million. I think if you can get that price down to about 60 million, then I think that's a deal to do, and I would do that deal. But if he tanks this season, you've got to. The problem is Jamie, you've got to question the mentality of these players, and that sadly is one of the things that we've got to do. Is we have to look at the mentality of these players. Believe would still be on the list, but I think we've dodged a bullet there. I think if you're looking at the performances this season, and if it continues, I think you'll be lucky to get 60 million for him. So I think 45 is probably a bit too low, but I think around about 60. 100 million for Bruno was crazy. Yeah, exactly. Looking at 20 mil for playing 2 games in Saudi, exactly. If he scores and plays well, it would increase his sell price. But personally, I'd let him go in Jan. So I can't rely on a Martinez comeback and Maguire get a good centre half. We'll come on to that as well, because I think you make a good point. I've been adamant on this. That we can talk, because I was going to do a show of who we're going to sell and buy, but we can talk about that now, because I do think, and I agree with you, that there are a number of players, and you can tell me who you think that we should sell and buy. So Stana says, why Bruno playing the 8? He should be playing the 10. The creativity is needed. Šeško is isolated for most of the time. Again, look, that's a very, very good observation to make. You're off your rocker, lol. You actually don't know ball. I actually do. I've been watching football for a very long time. You tell me, original member, instead of making sweeping statements, tell me why I am wrong. Tell me. You tell me what I've reported, why I don't know ball. I guarantee I know more about football than you. I guarantee it. But you tell me why I don't know ball. On the fact that you just said you actually you don't know ball, you just exposed yourself again. You've just exposed yourself. So you tell me you have the balls, because I'll explain everything that I say and where it comes from. You've just come in with a sweeping statement. I can't do much with that. If you tell me why I don't know ball, even though, like, how old are you? About 5. Tell me why I don't know ball. Give me more context. He should be playing as a 10. It doesn't matter where Bruno should be playing, right? Bruno as an 8, he is more effective as a 10. But we still finished 15th last season. Look, Fernandes was a number 10 last season. He's been a number 10 for the last however many years. He's been bad for 2 seasons at 10. He's been padding those stats because every time he gets the ball, he does something with it. Rightly or wrongly, he's been doing something with the ball. And he takes shots. He takes penalties. So, Bruno as a number 10, I don't buy into it, because he's been a number 10 for the last 2 years and he's still not been great. So I think there's a rhetoric here and there's a misnomer here that Fernandes has been amazingly brilliant. He hasn't. He's a stat padder. Abdul says, last season we beat Arsenal and City. What changed this year? We're just not very good still. Yeah, but just because you beating Arsenal and City are not a gauge of where you are as a side. It's not, because those games. So if you look at City and Arsenal, that's 4 games. 4 games. It's not those that determine you can't judge a team on those sorts of games, because if you play Liverpool, that's 2, City 2, and Arsenal 2, that's only 6 games. What about the rest of the games? You've got to think about this. What about the rest of the games? What about Newcastle, Tottenham, Villa, Forest? Those are the games you've got to win. Those are the games that you must win. So, Jamie says, if we decide to sack Amrin and hire Glasner, he will adjust and make the right moves in this chess match. Jamie, I disagree, Jamie. The only reason I do disagree with that, look, I would even going to say that will we get a new manager bounce? I don't think we will. My only problem, Jamie, and again, I'm not disagreeing with your statement. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, because you could be completely right. my observation is it doesn't matter who you get in this team. It doesn't matter what coach you get, because these players are still the same players. And until we get rid of Bruno, Dalot, Luke Shaw, Maguire, we're not going to progress as a team. So it doesn't, like, Glasner is not going to make Luke Shaw better. He's not going to make Bruno be less petulant. He's not going to not make Bruno the captain. He's not going to, he might play Bruno back in the 10, but Bruno was still part of the team that finished 15th, and Bruno disappeared in the final. So he's not going to make these players better. So what that means is Glasner is going to need a new team. And that's my observation. If Mount was Mount that was being the best in the midfield. Look, Mason Mount's good. Mason Mount is a good player, but he's not fully fit. He's never going to be fully fit, and his body can't handle it. But he is a good player. I want Mason Mount to do well, and I want him to come back, but he's got a long-standing injury that I love it when he plays, but I just don't know how long he's going to hold up. Glasner can coach to play strengths and adjust formations to work. Jamie, agreed. I completely agree with you. But he can't fix Bruno. He can't fix Shaw. He can't fix Maguire. Like, he's going to come into this team and he's going to need to figure out these players again. So he's going to play these players. You play Luke Shaw because he's a senior player. He'll play Fernandes as 10. I just need to reiterate that Bruno as a number 10 is not the answer. Cunha. Cunha's not even getting into the squad now. I'm starting to worry about him. Where are these players? Where will these players play? So look, maybe you're right. Maybe Glasner can come in and fix this team, but I just don't see it. Son listener says a lot of people would love to see the likes of some of the older teams in the Prem, like United, fell because they went up to what was made in the Premier League. They had a lot of money thrown. It was made in the Premier League. I think I get what you're saying. Look. People want to see United fail because us fans protest. What they can't stand is that we are the biggest club in England. Doesn't mean we're the most successful. I believe we are. Doesn't mean that we're the best. Doesn't mean we're playing the best ball. But what people can't stand is we finished 15th, yet we're still one of the biggest teams in the world, the most valuable teams in the world. And people don't like success. That's what it is. It doesn't matter if somebody sees you drive a Porsche, somebody sees you, with a big house, somebody sees you with, a bigger ice cream, people will automatically think you're, a scumbag. People hate success. Instead of not thinking about that person might have worked their butt off to get it. In this country, we're not very good at celebrating success. And that is what the problem is. People want to see a giant fall because people want to see the world burn. What do you think about Forest looking to bring Potter? Cold logic, I think it's a ridiculousness, mate. I think it's an absolute ridiculousness. I get, how can you chop it, Ange? I mean, how can you chop and change? You sacked a good coach. Bring in Ange, you're going to sack him, and then you're going to bring in Potter. Look, Forest are the makings of going down, and if they do, Forest will be the architects of that. No one else to blame. What's his name? Samaranakis, typical owner. If you get involved and they go down, that's on him. Bruno will cost 100 million because of supply and demand. Exactly. 30 years on, still in the Prem, hold one of the biggest football debts in the world and will never get paid off, which is wrong. Many levels, and fans are so deluded about their own teams in the Premiership. Little old Sheffield United made you look silly in the first Prem season under Wilder. and since you've copied all the style of play. Oh, Son. Oh, so you're trying to banter. Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, mate. I didn't look. We do have debt, and I despise the debt. I am not for 1 second suggesting that this is one of the best run clubs. If you've watched everything that I've said, which you clearly haven't, there's videos out there. I am not a biggest fan. I despise the Glazers. I despise Ineos. I despise the debt. What they've done to this club, right? And I don't know what you're talking about, Sheffield United. I don't see the relevance. What I love, sometimes I don't need to go back on comments. I'll read them out, but I don't necessarily need to go back. We just expose yourself, like make comments, but I don't need to come back on it because you expose yourself. Again, a lot of people today are exposing themselves. Angelo Stiller is a great addition. Look, I agree with you. I think Stiller though would be an expense. My only problem with Stiller is he's going to be an expensive signing. I don't think he's worth 60 million. There was a clause in his contract which I think has now been bought out by Stuttgart, and I think they're going to demand. Look, Wirtz screwed the market. Liverpool screwed the market on Wirtz, right? That is what they did. Wirtz screwed the market completely. The Bundesliga centre midfielders now, irrespective of age, they're going to want about 60, 70 million. Steeler's not worth that. Steeler needs a move, and if Steeler got a big move and then did well, then he would probably be worth that. But now what the Bundesliga are going to expect is a premium for their plays based on Wirtz. So I think he would be, but he has to be at the right price. 4 points off of fourth place. Oh dear, Sheffield United at the bottom of the league, but we are only 10 points off from first place. Mate, I don't get what you're saying. Blue Edits, hi JB. First time in a few weeks. I'm having a good day. Welcome to the chat, my friend. Glad you're having a good day. You know, ball brother, you are a legend. Look, Jamie, thank you, my friend. Look, I don't need. Look, people can say what they like, right? I appreciate it. Jamie, you're a legend of the chat. We've spoken about things many, many times. As I've said, people are going to hate. That's the one thing in this country, Jamie. I don't know what it's like in the States, but we want to bring people down, and people think that because they comment on here that it's going to bring me down, mate. It's going to take more than not saying that I don't know ball to bring me down. You don't know ball unless you play EAFC. Exactly that. Unless I'm talking about some player from the 4th division AFCON, from the 4th division, I don't know, African League, the South African League, then I don't know. Sawyer FC 26 gameplay, you're actually decent. You could beat me. I have FC 24 because I haven't got the fight. Look, mate, I am rubbish at FC, mate. I am terrible. Absolutely awful at it. I am going to try and do another stream on it. I'm trying to build up my team, but I'm absolutely dreadful, mate. I'm not going to pretend. Wondering Bruno will have a longer United career than Giggs. I don't think he will, mate. Don't think he will. Don't think he will. Don't think he will. We agree to disagree, brother. Exactly, Jamie. Look, and look, I absolutely hope that you're right. Absolutely hope. If Glasner comes in, Jamie, look, in life, someone's right and someone's wrong. Someone's partly right, someone's partly wrong. All we can do is, put our debates in. I'd love you to be right. I've been hurt so many times in this club that I have to, sort of mitigate that, right? And I just don't believe in these players. Glasner, I'd love him to come in. I'd love him to change this up and finish 6th. That would be amazing. I really, 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 really hope you're right. Don't crucify me, okay? But I'd love to have a Big Ange manage us. It already feels like a lethal injection with Amarin. Might as well go all out for the guillotine of my head. I am Chief. Confuse anybody else, mate. I would no. Look. That's an opinion. I am not here to dismantle your opinion. Where people I believe are insulting this community or being rude to me, then of course I'll come back in it. But Chief, at the end of the day, my friend, it's an opinion. I wouldn't want Big Ange anywhere near this club. I think Big Ange would absolutely relegate us. I think Ange Ball and all this Big Ange stuff, I think it would absolutely destroy us. But we don't know, and this is the problem. I believe wholeheartedly you get Big Ange in here, mate, and he causes more damage because he's not going to be given money. His fan base will not give him any time at all. And if you're getting sacked after 7 games for Forest, we could play a 4-2-3-1. It wouldn't be good, but it would be better than a 4-3-3. I'm just enjoying your suffering at this point. I think I've lost it, mate. Chief, I think you've lost it as well. Harif says Gerrard was better than Scholes. Different players, mate. Different players. That's your opinion. Look, I'm not gonna dispute your opinion. Many people do think that. Many people think that Stevie G was an amazing player. Respect to Gerrard. Absolutely no doubt that he was a great player. Absolutely no doubt that some people argue that he's a world-class player. You're never hearing that from me. Slippy G, you're never hearing, you didn't find Scholesy slipping. You always found Scholesy stepping up. Stevie G, to be fair as well, Stevie G, dragged Liverpool through that FA Cup against West Ham. I remember he couldn't even walk and he smashed that ball in. Look, Stevie G, there is no question that Stevie G was a phenomenal player. Phenomenal captain. I'm never going to say anything bad necessarily. For banter purposes, of course I will, but you're never going to hear me agree with that statement. But I respect the opinion. Our injury-prone players can handle 1 game a week. Fabakari says, hello, I don't know football. Did you see Amrin improving the team when he first came in and after the summer window? Have I seen him improve the team? No. Have I seen him improve the team? Yes, because the attacking stats are better. Look, one of the things that slightly annoys me, not with that, and I think that's a very, very good question to ask, is that people will go, oh, do you believe in stats when looking at this team, because, stats are not great. And then when people then want to justify stats, they will use stats, right? I only look at a couple of stats. Look, stats can be manipulated, right? But there is no doubt that attacking wise we look better. Do I think he's improved this? No. But the reason why he hasn't is because and this is on him, by the way. If you play the majority of the same players that finished 15th last season, what do you expect is going to happen? If you play Fernandes out of position, whether I think my opinions of Fernandes aside, well, what do you expect? If you play a pivot of Casemiro and Fernandes, what do you expect? So, is he improving the team? No. And for many people, they want the manager gone. I'm not going to argue that point. I am Amarin. I'm not Amarin in or out right now. I'm Amarin on the fence, but I'm not going to disagree with that. And I'm not going to lie either. And do I agree that he's improved the team? I think he has improved the team in some areas, but I'd probably say 30%. The other 70%, I don't see it. Ironically, Gerrard would be perfect in this midfield. I agree. Hate's going to hate exactly why the manager doesn't play Manu that much. We don't know. I don't think he likes Manu. I don't think he suits his style of play. Whether or not we think Manu is good or not, would my world end if Manu left? No. Would it be disappointing if he left? Yes. Would I be disappointed? Yes. Do I think Man Utd could potentially be one of the best midfielders in the league? Yes, I do. But does it mean that I would die if Man Utd left? No, because Man Utd played in the team last season that finished 15th. Like, there is not a single player in this squad that I would be devastated if they left. But I've been very fortunate to see proper world-class players, and I don't see world-class players in this team at all. Man Utd still young, exactly. Harry says, how many more years can United live off their past before we accept that they're mid-table team now? I accept that they're a mid-table team now. How many years did Liverpool live off of that? 30 years. We are, 14, 15 years in? We're a mid-table team. I accept it now. We are, and we have been for quite some time. I don't think it's years anymore. I think the problem is that expectation is always going to be high. And again, I don't prescribe. Why should we accept that we're a mid-table team? Do I accept that we're a mid-table team? No. Do I think we are? Yes. My expectation, and I demand that we finish first every single season, not because I'm an idiot, some people may think I am, because we need to keep the standards high. So I will never accept that we are a mid-table team. Do I think we are? Yes, but there's a big difference between acceptance of your position and where you factually are. We're factually irrelevant for the title. We're factually irrelevant in Champions League. But my expectation is still that we win the league. Afternoon, Selwyn. Greetings from Cape Town. You are a legend, my friend. I will defend you, brother. I got you back. Thank you, my friend. So many rumours happening. Believe it to United will happen, but it never went through. Don't know what's the matter. Look, the money-wise, it was 100 million. We should probably be prepping to lose in Burma and Ahmad for the AFCON. At least Man Utd and Zirkzee will get minutes. The problem with that, though, is by the time that happens, will Zirkzee be here? And that is one of the considerations. You're too old for that, JB. Exactly. United is like a relationship with a woman. They'll rip your heart out and then still want to be your friends. Exactly. Steve Moore says, I don't think he'll be at Forest for much longer. I don't think so either, but I think look, some managers just don't fit, right? Some managers just rub players up the wrong way. But the fact that Ange doesn't even probably know half of the names of the staff yet, I think is ridiculous. But they decided to pick him. But to go to Potter, I don't know. Alvin says, if Bruno is actually sold and getting two midfielders is a good plan. Two young, athletic, but good midfield options. Frugal Boy says, good day, JB. Good day, my friend. I think he has improved the team in terms of what should be able to achieve, but the main drawback is the actual plays in the team. Agreed. The only reason we have Bruno and Ahmad playing out position is because we wasted money buying 10s instead of buying a CM. All right, win back. I agree with you. Code logic, 100%. Agree with you completely. Andrew Edwards, sorry, JB, I'm late to the party. What's the Bruno summary? Andrew Edwards, don't need to apologise, my friend. So basically, Indicator last night, believe them or not, they had another exclusive, which I think is a pile of nonsense, that Bruno is going to leave for Saudi, and that's what they've hung the hat on. Now, we have said this on here, that we think Bruno Fernandes is going to go next season. 90 million, 100 million, roughly that price. Whether or not, that happens, I think he will go. But Indicator, look, they are just repeating what we've been saying. They're repeating what everyone's been saying, that Fernandes is going to go, but we can't ignore it. They're a middling outlet who Ornstein mentioned them once, and they're hanging their hat on that. So, I think they're not talking out of their butt, but they're claiming something that's not theirs. Zirkzee as well. So there's been reports of Zirkzee wants to leave. Man Utd wants to leave. Apparently, there's inner fighting now between these players. Man Utd wants to leave. Zirkzee wants to leave. And the problem with that is, unless we get replacements, these players are not going to leave. And my question would be, are they going to destabilise the club? I think one of the things that may hamper our season is destabilising the club with the players that don't want to be here. Question, JB, would you rather take relegation with Big Ange and win the league, or stick with Amorim and win nothing? Would you take relegation with Big Ange, then win the league, or stick with Amorim? No, because we're not going to win the league. Look, in that scenario, you don't go from relegation to winning the league. You just don't. Relegation would destroy this club. And what I mean by that is we'd have to sell all of our players. Ineos would stay. If you're asking relegation with Big Ange gets sold, gets sacked, and then the Glazers and Ineos leave, 100%. I would take that all day long, right? But again, I'm not necessarily going to want to stick with Amorim. But again, if I had to choose the two, then obviously I'm going to choose to win the league and go down with Big Ange in a hypothetical situation. Of course I would do, but I think relegation would be horrific. Nathan says still whinging. Yes, Nathan. Yes, Nathan. No, Nathan. I don't think I'm whinging, mate. I'm reporting the news and I'm responding to the chats. Chief, you can get relegated with both Casido or Rice, David. Horses for courses, really, isn't it? Declan Rice right now, because I think that he's done it in the Champions League a bit more, and I think he was the missing piece, and I think Arsenal might win the league. I mean, if I had to go for one, thinking about how they'd fit into this team, I'd go for Caicedo, but I do like Rice. I don't know what I do like Rice. What do you think Amorim? What you think Amorim will play the men's or Altai, or go for Martinez from Villa? He's got to play the men's. I think Ter Stegen. There's a talk of Ter Stegen coming in, and I think that would be a good idea as long as Ter Stegen's coming in as a backup. Altai will go. Martinez, we're not going to go back in for that deal. I think Lemens is actually shifted. I think Lemens has shifted opinion, and I think Lemens is the guy. So I think he will. I think he'd like a backup. I think he'd like a Ter Stegen or somebody who's a bit more like we did with Romero. Romero was a great keeper, absolutely. Like with Chelsea had Cudicini. That was his name, wasn't it? Amazing keeper, amazing second keeper. So they had Czech, and then what's his name? Cudicini? I think so. Amazing backup, and that's what we need. Look, Ter Stegen is in a position whereby he's been injured for a long time, and I think if you can bring him in with the thing of, look, mate, you might play, you might not. Hopefully, cup games you could play in those. But you want to keep who's going to push Lemens. You want to keep who's going to educate him as well. So I'd be all up for that. But I'm hoping that Lemens is going to be established. Faison says, "Hi man, hello my friend." Andrew Edwards could, because of sell him ASAP in case these poor performances decline his value. By the end of the season, it could be 50 or less. But the performances he's putting out, I'd be up for that, Andrew. I'd be absolutely up for getting rid of Bruno Fernandes in this team. Belieber, get him in, get in another, because if he goes, you need two. Maybe go for Conor Gallagher, maybe a Belieber in there as well. But I do think getting rid of Bruno right now will destabilise this club too much, because they all love Fernandes. So I think it will destabilise this club a bit too much. But I'm not opposed to it. But my only caveat to that would be, will it stay? Is it better to keep him for the stabilisation until next season? But that's a good point. If his performances are still as bad as they are, his values drop, and we've not made the right decision for Fernandes. So I don't trust this club. Danny, AC Milan club, welcome. AC Milan, amazing historic club, by the way. I think Jason Steele is a good backup. He's actually good enough to start for Brighton. Leicester won the league not long after relegation, to be fair. Yeah, Leicester were going down, weren't they? And then Neil Pearson, I think, kept them up. Ranieri come in. Look, that Leicester, that is true, Cole. And I was thinking that before. I said it. It's not going to happen again, is it? I mean, look, that was a once in a lifetime, and that was more the case of the league being not very good as well. There have to be many stars aligned, but you do make a good point. You do make a good point. And probably enjoying his canteen more than him training. I agree. What will happen first? United qualifying for Champions League or City getting punished? Us finishing first. I don't think City are going to get done, mate. I don't think they will. I don't think they will. I think we're going to finish first before that happens, because Ange said his second season is when he shines. I'm just messing with you, JB. I'd rather comment spec than to have Ange with us right now. Thank God, Chief. You need 3 right now, but losing Bruno doesn't change that. He is a 10, and you have an abundance of 10s. Losing him while he's been played at our position doesn't change positions needed. It's true, Andrew. The only thing is he's so intertwined with this club, and people look up to him so much that if he leaves, I worry we don't have the characters to just. And Bruno is an awful captain. I think he's a terrible captain. I don't think on the pitch it matters. I just think that if he goes, I think it's better to have the fallout in the summer. But do you then risk the drop of price? And you're right. It's what's the most effective thing to do. If you could guarantee me we'd get 100 million, we sell him 100 million and we go get 2 players, agreed. And then you get someone else in as captain. I just think we need to do what's best for the club. Is United back? No, absolutely. They're not back. Did you ever consider working in football finance? I mean, look, when I was younger, I never even, like, when you finish like university or when you finish your qualification, because football finance is not really taught, right? So when you're doing your accountancy exams, or you're doing like your finance stuff, football finance is not really like an option. So you don't even really think about it. And then when you obviously get your experience, it's really hard to get into. I mean, I did apply and I did want to get into that side of it, but it's so hard to get into, because if you think about it, there's only like X amount of clubs, and they've all got people in there as well. But I would have loved to have done it. Fascinating world, but wasn't to be. Leicester was an anomaly. I agree. So Zirkzee. So let's talk about Zirkzee and other players. So it looks like, again, this is going to come up time and time again. This window is this break is going to throw up many more conversations. So Zirkzee again is looking to move now, unlike last year. So this would be the second time that Zirkzee would be looking to move. Now, unlike the first time where I was a bit like, look, it was a bit preemptive, it was a little bit naive. I think I didn't blame him. He was getting a lot of stick from the fans. Now, Zirkzee's problem, and again, this is our problem because we didn't qualify for the Champions League because we got knocked out. And this is what I'm saying. That in essence, getting knocked out to Grimsby, does it really matter in terms of winning that cup? It's always nice to win a cup, and the banter-wise, it wasn't great, right? But the problem with that, and there are bigger problems, is that there are not enough games, right? So there's not enough games to play players. Now, there is talk of playing Saudi friendlies, which I agree with, because if players want that opportunity to play, then the only way they're going to get the opportunity to play is to play in games. outside of that, Zirkzee's not going to play. So I admire players that want to leave and move for their careers, right? 100%. Coder says AFCON starts before the January window, so he'll get his minutes. It's the players' fault that we lost to Grimsby. I agree with you completely. I am not going to dissuade from that. You know, Mainu had his opportunity. Mainu had an opportunity to tear up trees. He should have run that game, and he failed. I agree. I do agree. I think that the AFCON starts. The Zirkzee. My only thing there is if the AFCON players go, you've still got Cunha, Mason Mount. I think they get into the team before Zirkzee. It's timing. You're right. Do I think Zirkzee will be allowed to go? That is the question. I don't know. Would I get rid of Zirkzee? No. I think Zirkzee does have a part to play, but I think it's timing. You know, imagine a scenario where the AFCON players go. We've got, in essence, enough number 10s, really. And then Fernandes gets injured. Kobe gets injured. Maybe Mason Mount is out for a while. And Zirkzee leaves. Then we suddenly don't have an abundance of centre midfielders. So I think you're right. I think that we need to stop him from going. I think we say, look, you go at the end of the season. We are going to need you. Needs to bide your time. But if you do this for us, then we'll sell you. And I've got no problem with that. It's just timing. It's just timing. But I absolutely do agree. How would you break the cycle of hated if it imposes on your life? I'm guessing you mean like look. If you continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, it's very difficult to break the cycle of anything at all. It's very, very tough. Sometimes you need help. You know, don't be scared to ask for help. You know, sometimes you just need to, the thing that's causing you to break down, you need to remove it. Sometimes you need to remove yourself from the situation. Sometimes you need to remove yourself from a person if it's a person involved. Sometimes you need to remove yourself from a job. Sometimes you need to do all that and you need to ask for help. But you know, if you continue to do the same things that lead you to the same path, then you're never going to break the cycle. And breaking the cycle of anything in life is so difficult. And sometimes you need help. It's very, very difficult to do it on your own terms, and you have to make a drastic change. And the prime example of that is our club as well. So you can apply that. You can apply that to most things in life, but you have to do something drastic, legal, but drastic, or sometimes even just a small change to caveat that. Just something that breaks the cycle initially, and you've got to continue it. English Oak says Kobe in his third season, he's been injured for 170 days, 38 league games. That's one reason Kobe played 55 Premier League games, 3 goals and 1 assist. Zirkzee and Kobe can both go. English Oak, look, I think you make a good point. You know, I've always said this: Mainu is very, very young, right? If Mainu doesn't fit into the system, I don't want Mainu to go. I think in a couple of years' time, I think he can be a fantastic player. But if Mainu gets sold, am I bothered? I'm bothered at the fact it's a youth player and it's another youth player can go. Am I bothered? No, because none of these players, in my opinion, are world class. None of these players, you know, we need a purge of this pretty much the entire team. So I'm not bothered. But I want them this season. The only thing I would say this season is, look, we've chosen to go with this squad. We're quite light in the squad anyway. So for me, I only need them here for numbers. And I think the problem with that is they might destabilise the club. So it's a, look, Zirkzee we can sell. Look, we don't need Zirkzee. Alessandro says switch to City. Why would I want to switch to City? City have no I've no drive to switch to City at all. Absolutely no drive, and I would absolutely applaud people do not switch to City. I don't know why anybody would. Lucky, I disagree. We don't need Zirkzee. Zirkzee was part of the same team that finished 15th last season. Like, it's not we need him till the end of the season, but other than that, I'm not bothered if he goes. If Zirkzee could find the strength and aggression of Shesko, he would do bits. Right now, he's too close to a Berbatov. I agree. Zirkzee is actually not that good. I'll be honest. He's just aura farming. It's just for the vibes. Zirkzee cannot sell without replacement. Not all about goals or assists. Really good luck winning games. Agree. No, it is. Look, I do agree with that. But ultimately, English Oak, it is. It is, because without a system, without goals, you don't win games. Look, it is about more than that. Agreed. But if Manu in that position needs to be effective, and he's not, if Zirkzee is ineffective or can't get into the team, then you're right. It's pointless. But it is about assists and goals, because if it's not about assists and goals, then how do we win? Aura farm is a cliche. Striker, midfielder needed. I don't think a striker is. I think a backup striker is needed. Let's be honest, Zirkzee is not good. I support City, but Zirk has more potential. Look, Alessandro, the fact that your name is Alessandro Ronaldo, is that your real name? Is Ronaldo your second name? If it is, if it's not, then that is absolutely hypocrisy at its best. So if Alexandra Ronaldo is your real name, I suspect, even if it's not, you're going to tell me. If Ronaldo is your second name, and you may say, no, it's R9, but if it's Cristiano and you're a City fan, can you not see the irony of that? I may be wrong. Welbeck was elite at link-up play, and he could score goals too. Welbeck was an elite, mate. Welbeck was an elite. He's better than anything we've got right now. But Welbeck was not elite, mate. I disagree with that completely. But if you think so, you know. So Stanley says, if Bruno is sold, it's Federico Valverde. Don't tell Scott that, because he would love that. Zaire Emery, good addition. Look, you might as well basically say, we're going to go get Bellingham, we're going to go get Haaland, we're going to go get, whoever else it is. It's not going to happen. Look, I don't disagree with the players that you mentioned, but we're not getting these players. So I think when we're talking about players, look, absolutely no problem in talking about these players. And I agree that these players, yeah, they're great, but we need to be realistic. We're not getting these players. Pedri doesn't score as much. Look at his stats, he's like 30 to 40 goals in his entire career, but he's still the best midfielder in the world. And that's exactly it. Right, I do agree with that completely. Is you don't need to score goals. You don't even necessarily need to create the assist, right? Because there are two positions, right? Is that number one, you've got the Kante Casido position where you break up play and you do those hard jobs, which is equally important to me as assists and goals, which they don't get like the credit for. They do from their teammates, agreed. And Pedri, even if you don't get the assist, but you create the chances that lead up to the assist, again, I completely agree with that. So you need those players in there. You need those creative, like you look at Biscuits. Sorry. Yeah, right. So the Barcelona player sat there, anchored, an anchor player, really, really amazing player. He was that he was just an amazing player. You know, did he get tons of assists? I don't think he did, but he was that amazing. You know, when you have Xavi, Iniesta, and best, and I can't even believe say his name now. When you got those three in there, just what a midfield, you know. And you're right. It's not all about. It's all about assists and goals when you want to win games, but you also need more than that as well. And those to me are equally as important as assists and goals. It's not individual players; it's the balance of the system. Look at agreed. I completely agree. Cristiano or Messi, as I'll always say this, Cristiano is the epitome of hard work. Messi is a gift. Simple as that. I don't even rate Zirkzee. He's not even mid. Makes Chicharito look world class. Kobe is a creative midfielder, just like Pedri. Even if he doesn't score, he'll create chances for players. Control the game with that creative midfield. Look, in essence, that's what he does, right? You can't have a man of the match performance in an FA Cup final at that age without being a good player. I have no doubt that he's a good player, but he doesn't fit Amorim's system. And whether I like it or not, if there's money to be made there, I'm on the fence. He hasn't been good. Grimsby was his opportunity. He's fully fit, and Grimsby was his opportunity, and he fluffed his lines. So I agree with everything that you've said, but maybe Mainu works better in a different team. Maybe he works in a Munich team. Maybe he works in a City team. If he went to City, it would be devastating. But maybe he does work in a different system. And if we are going to pursue this system and we are going to back the manager, then we might as well cash in on him. I'm not happy about it. I don't necessarily agree with it. But Milson says, hi, hello, my friend. No, Ronaldo, it is not my last name. So no, Ronaldo is not my last name. So you've called yourself Ronaldo, and I'm guessing it's Cristiano, and you're a City fan. Come on, mate. Come on now. Here's a take. Liverpool were awful, where all the TV pundits were successful former Liverpool players criticising their team, and they all got fired for being old, and Liverpool found success again. Look, you know, sack him then. I mean, Neville needs to be sacked. I'd sack him tomorrow. I think Neville is a prize idiot. So I would get rid of Neville easily. Roy Keane is funny. I'd keep Roy Keane. I think he's hilarious. So Berbatov's a legend. What are you on, mate? Don't even put Berber and Zirkzee in one of the conversations. Maybe he's an R9 fan. Maybe even the old goals are for the attackers, strikers, midfielders' job isn't to score, but to help the team in attacks, whether it be assist, goal, or creating plays. Agreed. Agreed. I absolutely would love us to have a Carrick in there as well. Does all the dirt. I think those players are worth the weight in gold. I think those players are just as important as goals and assists. Those players that mop up, that create, not necessarily create the assist, but create the assist for the assist. We don't have enough players who make selfless runs off the ball. This is why managers like Mount would be another. It's essential. Agree with your code logic. Agree completely, my friend. Zidane doesn't even have 100 goals, but he's considered the greatest midfielder of all time by fans, legends, and the greatest player of all time, Messi and Cristiano. Agreed. You've got, look, it's not all about goals. Midfielders is the midfield position. Look, I'll give you an example. Lampard is a midfielder. Tons of goals. Great player. But I'm not going to disagree. Zidane, magician, one of the best midfielders of all times. And I think, as I've said, I just agree with you completely. is that it's not all about goals and assists. It's about what you do for the team, and it's about that, it's about your job in the team. Conor Maguire says, missed the streams yesterday, JB. Any thoughts on the youth teams having to borrow shorts and socks because of the cost cut? And look, Conor, it is, my thoughts on that are disgusting. My thoughts are, I want the Glazers, Ineos out of this club. At any level, youth, women's team, as a mandatory requirement, they should have full kit. The fact they're having to borrow socks because of the cost cutting, I don't know how true that is. It is disgusting. So I'm only going to say, if it's true, it might just be, look, I'm not up for bashing the Glazers and Ineos where it's not true. I won't just jump on anything that they do, because it needs to be accurate, right? Whatever stick I would use to beat them with has to be accurate, right? I don't necessarily believe everything that I read, but if it is true, and you wonder why we fell on the pitch. So what do you think, what the actual problem, manager or player or something else? So when Ronaldo came in 2021, he carried with goal, but still, look, really, 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 really simple, and I've gone over this tons of times. The problem is the Glazers. The problem is Ineos coming into this club. The problem is the debt. The problem is the culture. Wilcox, a couple of weeks ago, was on a dinner tour, a speech. I've mentioned this as well, and it's been missed. He said when he came into this club 18 months ago, there was no link between the manager, the owners, the players, the youth. Tells you everything you need to know about this club. So for 20 years, there's been no link. That is what the problem is. The debt stops us from the debt, and the debt interest is a handcuff. The Glazers are scumbags who don't put a penny of their own cash into this club. Ineos have enabled them to basically stay. Look, the players are the issue. The manager seemingly is part of the problem. They are the focal point, because our business is football, and that's what we see. But it's fundamentally so much more than that. It doesn't matter what players you bring in. Really, it doesn't really matter about the manager until this culture, until this club is purged of all the crap. Success is going to be limited unless there's an absolute culture and a club reset. If the midfield does not fit the system, it's better to sell him better than the club. Agree. Look, agree. We absolutely need the money to rebuild this team. So I'm with you. Smartline says we need players with Cunha's attitude. We are prepared to grind for 90 minutes, not players who drop their heads when things go right. When things don't go right, I agree with you. Alessandro, United values the wrong players. Fernandes instead of Sancho. United values the wrong players. Fernandes instead of Sancho and Garnacho. Alessandro, it's an opinion. All I'm going to say is so this is what I'm going to say, and I don't need to say anything more, and I'm not calling you out. This is from what I gather. Ronaldo as a last name, and I'm guessing you're not referring to R9, and I'm guessing you're younger. You support City, you've got Cristiano's last name, and you think that Sancho and a Garnacho should be put ahead of Bruno Fernandes. As much as I detest his performances, you think Jadon Sancho and Garnacho should be valued ahead of Fernandes. I don't need to say anything more than that. I don't need to say anything more than that. It just goes to show the values that you value as a supporter. And I'm not putting it down at all. I'm just saying it's interesting. And I think that you're a younger person. And it just goes to show for me how football has changed. I'm not going to put your opinion down if that's what you value, these sorts of players. That's absolutely fine. But that, in my opinion, is what's wrong with football and what's wrong with the modern fan. Look, I'm old school, right? But if you're going to value Sancho, who's been proven time and time and time again to destabilise clubs and put himself and money above the club and his job, and Garnacho, who's willing to do anything he can to leave a club, even wear an Aston Villa shirt, I don't need to say anything more than that. Adam Wharton coming to United in the transfer window. I hope so, my friend. I hope so. Who said Zirkzee is Berbatov? I'll let you guys have that argument. What was it? What was in the Athletic yesterday, mate? Can't remember. I didn't see it yesterday. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't see that yesterday, my friends. Style wise, anyway, I am not getting into your arguments. A United player leaves and performs very well, like Rashford, Scott, Rasmus, Anthony. Was it the problem? Look, Anthony, I'm not having that because Anthony is in the Spanish league. Look, I'm not putting leagues down. I'm not having that. Anthony, no. Rashford, look. The Rashford one for me was part Rashford, part the club. Right? So I think wherever Rashford went, look, Rashford is not a bad player. All right. Scott McTominay, Rasmus Højlund, those two players. Rasmus, I even said I didn't want him to go. And I've said I think he'll do well at another club. And I think that he will improve. Some of these I think is 50-50. Like when you got Rashford, it was a mixture of both. But there is no doubt the underlying issue, as it has been proven, and we have to be fair, it's a mixture of players, it's a mixture of buying the wrong players, but it's the mixture of the toxic culture in this club as well. So for me, it's not just players or the club or a manager, it's everything combined. You guys are on a good old debate today. Garnacho acted like Ronaldo but didn't show the love towards the club. I agree. Should we have played Zirkzee at left number 10 when Ahmad was playing left 10? I don't know. I mean, Amorim doesn't like him, and I don't know what Zirkzee's doing. So it's really hard to comment. Rasmus is like the second Haaland pure. I'm not sure about that one, but you know. So, so guys, on that note, I am gonna go. I do have to go back to work. But fantastic show again, guys. I know you guys are having a little bit of a debate in the chat as well. Look, you guys are having your debate in the chat as well. So, guys, I should be back tonight. I'll see what's out there. Look, these shows during the international break, I'm not like other channels where I'm just going to spam crap for the sake of it. So I should be back tonight. And if I am going to be back tonight, it's going to be one of those late shows where we can bring in and discuss whatever it is that you want to bring into the show. So on that note, I am going to go, guys. Thank you so much for being in the chat. You guys absolutely make this chat and this channel what it is. So I can only thank you for being here. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I should be back tonight. I look forward to doing the show tonight. And of course, I'll see you on the next one. Take care and have a good rest of your day.